Watauga Arts Council with your host, Cherry Johnson, serving arts in Watauga County for more than 30 years.
Hi, I'm Cherry Johnson with Watauga County Arts Council, and every month we celebrate the arts. We have a fantastic, wonderful facility, the Blue Ridge Art Space. In it are 4 great galleries, and in those 4 galleries there are always new exhibits every month. And before I forget to tell you, the second Saturday of every month from 5:30 to 7:30 we have a party. We don't just celebrate the great new exhibits, but we also have artists demonstrating different art forms in each of our 5 classrooms. So there's always a lot of really cool activities that anyone would enjoy. And in the month of June, we're featuring Marion Cloninger. You're in our open door gallery, which is the first room on the left as you come into the building. And it's a nice, bright, cheerful room, you know.
It is, and it's a pretty good size, too.
And your art's going to fit right in because your art is very bright and colorful and exciting. You know, you've kind of changed your style in the last few years.
Well, you know, we don't want to get stagnant.
That's exactly right. Now, how long have you been painting, Marion?
Oh, my goodness. I felt that you were probably going to ask me that question.
You probably did.
But I was trying to think about it, and it's probably been... oh my goodness, probably at least 15 to 20 years, perhaps. It's been a long time. Yeah.
What'd you do to get started painting?
I actually started with like some faux painting on walls and that sort of thing, and then thought, well, if I could do this, maybe I could try something on paper. And I started out with watercolor then, and progressed to collage. And then went to acrylics, and then kind of combined acrylics and collage. Right. And that's pretty much, you know, I like that combination. Yeah, I've seen a lot of collage of your work in the last several years. Now, and I've done Marion's work just about, I guess, the whole time, or almost the whole time. That's right. You've been involved with the Arts Council for a long time. Now, the piece behind me, what is the name of this piece? Excuse me. That is Mountain Mist.
It does look like a mist. Ooh, that's cool. Now, you can't see it as well as I can up close, so you got to come see the exhibit. But she has this really neat finish on her work. Talk to me about that. Where did that come from?
I was looking for something different. I didn't like the real matte look to a varnish finish on my paintings. And I made a trip to Quebec City one summer, and they had these beautiful, bright, colorful paintings in a lot of the galleries there, and they had this bright, glossy finish on them. And I thought, well, how can I do that finish on my paintings? Right. Well, some of the finishes were very toxic that they were using. So I decided I would try and do something a little bit different. So I got this self-leveling clear gel.
Where do you get that?
Well, Golden puts it out, but
so it's not a building supply thing, it's an art supply.
Yeah, it's an art supply. Cheap Joe's carries it and other online art suppliers. But I had to play around with it for a while to get it down pat, and it still can be a little bit tricky at times. But I found that if I would put a coat of a satin medium on my painting, and then follow that with a coat of the self-leveling clear gel. Right. And you have to spritz it carefully with alcohol to get rid of bubbles. And I usually add 2 or 3 coats. Okay. Of the doing the same. The finish is really smooth. Yeah. So I try to get it pretty smooth. But you know, sometimes when there's collage elements, you're going to have a little texture, which is fine too. Right. I don't mind that. So, but I try to get that really glossy look, and I love how it makes the colors just pop off the canvas. It does. It really does. Now, is this a collage? The forefront is. You notice a little bit of texture in the forefront? That is simply a artist's tissue paper. Yes. That I laid down and then painted on top. At one of our recent Second Saturday celebrations, Shirley Hampton was using a tissue and adhering it with the paint. Is that what you do? I actually adhere it with medium. Okay. But it would adhere if you use paint as well. Because that was something I had not seen anybody doing before, and I thought it was really kind of a neat idea, you know. And then you go back over this then several times with your coats of whatever to get the... But did you paint over the collage? I did. Okay. I did. And if you notice, there's a little bit of imprint above the collage area, which I did. And then above that, and is the, I've started using a new line of products called High Flow Acrylics by Golden. And where I found that I can manipulate them on the canvas, moving the canvas around in different ways and manipulating the flow and adding paint until I get exactly the look I want.
That's great. That's
So
great.
it does take a little bit trickiness to get it down, but I like the way the paint works.
It's very unique and very cool. I had somebody come in the other day before you told me about this and say, so what is this finish? And I didn't have an answer for them, so now I know. So, but I'd asked you about it recently, you know.
But if you wanted to try that finish yourself, I would certainly suggest you practice on something that you're not interested in keeping.
Right.
Because it is a little bit of a learning curve.
I think you should teach a workshop in this.
Well,
I think
that's
that'd
a
be
possibility.
fun. A lot of artists are interested in new techniques, and as you said, you don't want to get stale. You know, you want to keep adding
you got to
new
keep
things.
going. And I started something new this week even.
What is that?
Well, my very last painting for the show.
Uh-huh.
It's called Garden Wall. And I took a pouring gel.
Okay.
Liquitex puts it out.
Uh-huh.
And I painted I painted a background on my canvas and used some stamping techniques and just kind of went wild with the background.
Right.
And then I poured this medium on it and used my high flow acrylics to kind of dot it into the medium. And then what that does is the colors just start to flow through the medium and they mix a little bit with each other. And I kind of move my canvas, go back and forth, back and forth. And what I ended up with was this brilliant burst of color that looks like, to me, an abstract version of flowers and leaves and lichen coming off a garden wall.
How cool.
So I like that was something new.
Uh-huh.
So I'll take that now and I'll go from there and try to develop it in different ways.
That's really neat. It sounds a little bit like alcohol ink, because alcohol ink is one of those things where the really brilliant color does its own thing kind of, and you just kind of guide it, you know. And so it sounds a little bit that way, that it's got the same concept. I think a lot of people think that they aren't artists because they can't draw whatever it is they want to draw, or they can't, you know, do certain things. But I think art is a lot broader than that, and there's so many opportunities to create without having specific talents. I mean, those are helpful, but they're not a mandatory thing. Some artists don't draw, you know.
Well, I love to draw too, and I do that sometimes with my paintings. But this type of artwork is more intuitive.
Right, right.
As I'm working with it, I might work with a painting for quite a long time, and it might have many layers of paint on it before I decide this is done.
Right. And how do you know when it's done? That's always a question.
It's a hard thing. It's a very hard thing. I think it's something you just have to learn over time and to just be aware, because you can step over that line and ruin a painting.
You surely can. You surely can. Now, is the medium that you use, is it something you can go back and redo the canvas, or is it gone?
Oh no, this is the beauty of this. Since it's not actually a varnish, I don't have to remove it. So I can gesso over that and start over, or I can just paint on top of it and use what's underneath and develop a whole new painting. So it's very usable from there.
That's great.
But at the same time, this finish itself is very friendly. When you hang your painting on the wall, the UV lights coming through the window is not going to affect your painting, because this finish repels that. And so I get the same kind of idea as a varnish.
Right, right.
But I feel like it's a little more usable.
And for someone like me that really loves windows in a home, for example, you know, that is a big important factor, because a lot of things will fade.
Oh yes, the watercolors especially, if you have them in light. So.
Have you ever seen watercolors that more or less just turned an off shade of?
Yes, they just don't look pretty anymore at all. And it's a shame, because a lot of work goes into it.
Exactly. And then it's history. It's move on to something new. Maybe it's time to gesso over it and start with something else.
Well, that's right.
Or touch it up, or do whatever you got to do. Now, when you start a painting, do you have an idea in your head of what you want that painting to be, or what's your process?
Sometimes I do if I do a drawing first, like if I do a figure.
Right.
A lot of times I will do a drawing, but I have started with my figure paintings doing an underpainting and maybe throw collage in there, maybe just do all kinds of wild stuff, draw the figure on top, and then paint on top of that.
Right.
Kind of, drawing it together. But other than that, not really.
You don't have
so
this
much.
idea in your head of the finished product per se.
No, I'll just start painting and see what happens and kind of develop it, let the painting tell me where it wants to go.
I hear that phrase a lot out of artists. You know, that many times the art process is listening or watching what the painting wants to be and then start to, I hear sculptors say that, especially wood sculptors. Will say that, they look at a piece of wood and try to decide what is it that piece is going to be. What does that piece want to be? And then they start complimenting that, and they say that if they go the wrong way on it, it basically argues with them, So
Yes.
do you feel that way too?
Somewhat, and I know a lot of artists like to be very particular to start with a drawing, and they'd like to do little studies. And
Right.
I can't do that.
No sketchbook in the hip
I
pocket.
cannot do that. That feels to me like you're getting too particular, you're getting too closed in of what this painting is going to be, and I can't do that. I have to be more open.
Now, do you paint only in your studio?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. Usually, yes. It's just so hard to load everything up and take it anywhere. But this last Saturday, the Art Mart downtown had a paint out. So I was on King Street.
Good.
Painting that day, and it was totally out of my element, and that's why I did it.
Was it fun?
It was fun, but it was interesting that most people ignored me.
Really?
Completely. And I was thinking if I was out there, there would be people hanging over my shoulders.
Yes.
And, but I guess King Street was so busy that day, and there
People
were a
just
lot of
walked on by you.
people that people really didn't
That's cool.
really, pay a whole lot of attention to me. But I was in front of the antique store downtown, and there was this great big pink flamingo in the window, and I kind of like pink flamingos. The tackier, the better. And so there was this great big tall one in the window, so I just parked myself right there and painted the pink flamingo.
How interesting.
Which is unusual too.
Yes.
It's not the usual
it
thing I
is.
would paint, but I thought, okay, I'm out of my element, so I'm going to get completely out of my element today.
That's cool. Were you happy with your product?
It turned out okay for what it was, yeah, and I will put it in their little art exhibit
thing,
for
yeah,
this, just to show that I
That's cool.
participated.
I love the paint outs or plein air painting. I think it's a really neat idea. We've talked about having some excursions where you sign up and you don't know where you're going.
Well, now that would be exciting. That would definitely be out of people's element.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think it's important to do that sometimes.
The courageous artists will come with us, and the rest of them will just go somewhere, go to their studio and paint. Now, are your paintings? Do you sell a lot of them?
Well, it's interesting that right now that doesn't seem to be a really high market.
The economy.
That's right. But I do it because it is important to me to paint. And of course, we all want to sell our products, and I think I do from time to time. But to me, right now, the most important thing is it's kind of a stress reliever activity.
Yes. Probably cheaper than a therapist.
Oh yeah, I would think so.
And probably get very similar results out of it.
Well, you just lose all track of time when you're in your studio, working and.
Well, and you lose the realities.
Yeah, you do.
So it gives you a chance to escape.
That's exactly right, and that's very important for all of us. Because I have a full-time job too, so this is good to get away from my routine.
I was getting ready to ask you that your full-time job is.
I'm a nurse.
Yes.
Yeah.
So which is a stressful position.
Yes. Yeah, it can be stressful. So I do need my little stress relief area there.
That's cool. I think the arts have a purpose in just about everybody's life if they'll just let them. You know what I mean? So I think that for some folks it's getting out of the box, and for other folks it's a career. So it just depends on what you need and what fits your life. But I think this is really great. I guess you give a lot of gifts to family and friends and that kind of thing?
I do sometimes. Heather, my daughter Heather, and her husband Roger have several of my paintings in their home.
Good.
And they enjoy my art, which is very
That's
flattering
great.
to me. I enjoy that. And my other daughter, Kendall, has some pieces as well. And sometimes I give pieces to auctions and charity kind of
And you gave us
funds.
one.
Yes, I gave you one too.
We're going to be using it in our Artful Palette, which is coming up on August the 23rd. It's going to be one of our featured pieces. So
Okay,
we're
great.
excited about that. And so we appreciate it very much.
Well, you are quite welcome.
It really meant a lot to us to have that really cool piece. And it kind of, the piece you donated to us is kind of a tropical theme, you know, or island getaway kind of a feel.
Oh, it could be that way. And it's, you know, what I like about art is that when people look at it, they can take away whatever they want from that piece.
And the more abstract it is, the more likely they are to do that.
Exactly.
So you've gone more and more abstract, I think, over the years.
Yeah, I've kind of just headed down that path, and I really like it.
So,
It feels more freeing to me.
Right, right. Well, you're not rigid into making it look like something. You're just the impression of it. You know?
Although there are some pieces that I'm putting in the show that you can tell they're flower arrangement kind of things.
Yeah.
And they don't look so terribly abstract, but they're not extremely realistic.
Now, you're not also competing in the pedal pushers, are you?
I am going to have one
How
piece
about
for
that?
that.
Not competing. Well, kind of competing. We're giving prizes.
I am going to have a piece, and it's a rather abstract floral.
That's great. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Pedal Pushers is in the main gallery. It is a open exhibit. Any artist can participate. Anything that has a floral theme, and it doesn't have to be a painting. It can be a sculptural piece. It could be a piece of jewelry. It can be just about anything you want. But it has to have a floral theme to it. So it'll be a nice compliment to your work, I think.
Yeah,
So.
it'll be fun to have something in both rooms.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, it's always fun when we put artists in the same place. It's lots of cool stuff happens. I'm really looking forward to your work. We're getting ready to hang it in a few days, and so by the time you see this, we will be hanging the show. And so you can just come right on by and check it out. We're open 2 to 6 on Tuesday and Wednesday, and 11 to 6 on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then, of course, our second Saturday celebration of the arts is the 14th, and it's from 5:30 to 7:30. So come by and check us out. Anytime you see that the little flag that's flying, the sign says open, you definitely can stop on in, so check it out. Come by the Arts Council, check our website. Now, you have a website, which we're putting up on the screen as well.
My lovely daughter, Heather, has helped me with that website, which I appreciate.
Isn't that nice to have that kind of help? I
Yes.
hear a lot of artists going, I just don't know how to do this, or I don't have the time to do it, or whatever, so it's really nice to have that extra set of hands. So we'll go check it out. And check our website for a link to this and a whole lot more. Watauga-arts.org is our website. We'll see you there.
Watauga Arts Council with your host, Cherry Johnson, serving arts in Watauga County for more than 30 years.